technical issues. It's always, there's a lot we cannot control, but we're grateful that we're here. Again, Lydia Nimbesha, welcoming you today for the youth space organized by Beyond the Veil. So happy today to be with so many amazing speakers and our instructor, Brent and Diaz. They're gonna get to introduce themselves, and we hope we're gonna have a good time. Again, I think I shared today on our Instagram. In the future, we hope that we're gonna be able to spoil our young people the way you've been supporting us, this week has been amazing, but in the meantime, if you live in the GTA, Hamilton areas, send us a quick shirt, or, we're gonna send our email so we can send you a self-care kit. So don't forget a gift for you guys. We're here. So again, thank you so much. Welcome you. Without taking longer time, I'm gonna welcome Kundwa Doriane, Ladies First, Miss 2015. That's one of the titles that she carries, because I know she's been accomplishing so much to support, our young people and different organizations here in Canada. So Kundwa Doriane, we welcome you, and we want to hear from your heart, how the young people have been doing, ways we're coping and all of that. But introduce yourself, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Lydia, and thank you to everyone here. My name is Doriane Kundwa, as Lydia said. I am Miss Rwanda 2015, and I am a co-founder or founding member of Nyampinga Foundation, as well as I'm the vice president of iRide, and the one who's in charge of public relations and vice president of United for Humanity. Now I reside in Canada. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Kundwa Doriane. And if you can just tell us one thing, in regards to this topic, space for youth, most of the time, there's a way we see the youth, there's a way we even try to define what are their needs and all of that. Is there anything that you can speak, in regards to this topic and mental health with our youth? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I'll first of all share my personal experience as the topic we're talking about, our mental health during the pandemic. Personally, I struggled a lot because I'm a person who likes to be in control, know what's coming, plan ahead of time, know what's gonna happen on Sunday when it's just Monday. So being in a position where I couldn't even tell if I'll be able to get out of the house the next day, that was a lot on me emotionally and mentally, and not being able to see my friends, to see my family, because I believe that as human beings, we are created to be in community. We're not created to be alone or isolated, but this was the situation we're in. So there was no other choice. In order to be safe, I had to be isolated. So that was hard. But it also taught me a lesson that I have to take everything one step at a time, that it is okay not to be in control all the time. And one of the ways I try to cope with it is I am a spiritual person, and I prayed, because that brought me the peace of mind to understand that I am putting the situation in the hands of God. And I tried to be off screens, because there was a lot of conspiracy theories going on around, and a lot of bad news, always seeing the numbers raising, people dying. But it got harder when I started to hear like people that I know, my friends or family friends, who were dying. I was like, now this is actually really getting real. So I tried to understand that, okay, God loves these people more than I do. I have to understand that now it's time that I first take care of myself and cope with the situation, adjust to the new normal. So I started having like Zoom calls like this one with my family, with my friends. The same way I'll hang out with them over the weekend. So I would just do a call and sit and have a drink and just try to feel like we're together, even though it's behind the screens. The last thing maybe I would say just in a few words, because I know that in our culture, there is a stigma around anything that it goes with mental health, which kind of, I would say, stop many people from sharing when they're struggling. And I really, really want to encourage every young person hearing us or following us today that it is okay not to be okay. It's 100% fine not to be okay. And we are different, we wire differently, but each person can find something that works for them. For me, I love music, I love to cook. So I did that a lot during the pandemic. Whenever I feel like I need to put my energy somewhere, I would just go in the kitchen and just cook. But every person has something that works for them. So I would really, really encourage everyone to find that thing. And also to find your circle, the people that you trust, the people that can be there for you without judging you, and understand that it's fine to open up. It's fine not to be okay. It is allowed. And we have to take those feelings in. We have to allow ourselves to acknowledge and know that, yes, it's happening. And now how can I deal with it? So I think that is, in brief, that was my experience and the lessons that I learned from it.
Thank you so much, Dodor, and I hope we're gonna be able to hear more as well. And thank you so much. In the meantime, let's welcome Christian Ntwali, all the way from Rwanda. We're so excited to hear from him as well.
Guys.
Welcome, Christian. Tell us about yourself. What do you do, and what do you think about this whole topic? This is a space for the youth. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you so much. My name is Ntwali Christian, and I live in Rwanda. I'm a creative entrepreneur. For the last 10 years, I have been working in creative industry. I have been working with different companies as a production manager, and I have been part of some of the biggest shows in Rwanda, such as FacePad, Stromae's concert, Sauti Sol. We have been doing big production events. And I'm a founder of our past initiative, a youth initiative that educates young people about the history of Rwanda and about the genocide that happened in 1994. And through the events, we have been helping genocide survivors through different activities like helping them to renovate their houses and giving some of them easy access to water in their homes. And this year will mark 10 years since we started the initiative. So it's huge. And it's so sad that 10th anniversary comes in a situation like this. But yeah, we are grateful for the journey we have had in the last 10 years. And talking about the topic we have today as how this pandemic affected my mental health. Like me personally, it affected everything I do. If you look at when was the last time we had a show, when it comes to creative industry, it was December 2019. So imagine if that was the only thing that help you to survive. That's how you can feed yourself and the people around you. There's no way you can survive that. But again, when you look back and you imagine everything that you went through and you're still alive, you can, you're okay, you are able to get where, something to eat, where to sleep and all that. You just thank God, that's when you even have to understand that there is a God that is alive, that helps us to go through everything we go through. So when it comes to my other job, which is like, I have another job. I started as a side job, hustle, but today I will say that's my main job, I supply construction materials. And since the COVID came in, I lost some of the biggest contracts I've ever had my whole life. That was like life-changing contracts. So after the lockdown, I have been able to go back and start some small deals, and it's going well so far because, as you can see, I'm okay, I'm alive, and talking about how this pandemic affected young people, you can see the fear in young people. Some of them are scared that they might lose a loved one, and others are scared of not being able to go to work the next day because no one knows. You wake up in the morning and the government says it's a lockdown because the numbers are high, you know. So another thing I've realized is that the social media haven't been just a source of information as we used to, you know, to say it, but it's now more of a source of entertainment, and it's helping some of the people and it's destroying other people's lives, because some young people are depressed because of what they see on social media, and some of them, they wish they can have the same thing they're seeing on social media, you know, which is very bad. Because one thing we don't see is that some of the people we follow and what we see on social media most of the time, this is what people want us to see, you know. So most young people are in a trap where what they see, that's the world out there, you know. And the fact that some of them cannot have what they see on social media are causing depression and sadness and all those things that we are trying to pay attention to. Some of them are really unnecessary. And yeah, that's what I can say now. And yeah, I'll give back Mike.
Yes, thank you so much, Christian. We really appreciate a lot, you know, sharing with us your experiences and, you know, what you really even share with other young people like you. And we really appreciate you, even, you know, grateful that you were able to keep going. You know, there are some people among us who are not able to, you know, to move forward, who are stuck in many ways, and there's no one to blame. There's nothing to compare with, you know. However you're doing in this pandemic, just to let you know that you're doing your best to survive, and the fact that you're here, you know, we're just grateful that you're here. So yeah, thank you so much, Christian. And I like that both of you and Doriane, you share something really important, being encouraged, you know, in your faith. I think, you know, Rwandan people, really, really go towards to seek help, you know, using, faith support and other ways like that. And I'm so grateful that until now, our young people are able to use that option to cope with their mental well-being. Anyways, let me not take a long time. I'm gonna have to welcome Brent Diaz, who's gonna lead us, you know, in this workshop. We're gonna have a few questions. We're gonna need to interact with you guys. Thank you so much, Brent. Welcome, and please tell us, you know, who you are again and talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's just so wonderful to be here again. And so this is a little bit about me. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, everybody, there have been emails going back and forth between Lydia and I and other people in Beyond the Veil, trying to plan this thing, trying to like do the best job we possibly can to have this great time together to talk about youth issues. And, you know, as the time is going on, I thought more and more and more, wait a second, we have these wonderful people who are joining us for this. I think that they are actually the ones we need to be listening to. And already we've heard from Doriane and Christian, just amazing wisdom, knowledge, just really, really important themes that are explained better than even I could, not that I'm much, but that I could share. So so this is going to be a bit of a different presentation. I think it's going to be different than what we kind of planned, in that we're going to really highlight the voices of Doriane and Christian in this. So this is me. I mean, there's these various things that I do. I'm a trauma therapist. I teach at a university, but you'll notice towards the bottom that I was also a former youth pastor. I did that for 7.5 years. So I have a real passion for young people. And I think a big part of the way that I saw youth ministry was I wanted to always empower the youth, right? I always wanted to empower them not only to follow God, like we've kind of been talking about, but also to, you know, if they wanted to reach out to their peers in various ways, that they would have the opportunity to do that. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking here. I think that this is really a space for the young people, not some older guy who's not even Rwandan. so it's going to be a little different than some of the other presentations, but I think you're going to really like it.
Mm-hmm.
So as we've already talked about, we're going to be talking today about how the pandemic has impacted the young people, the Rwandan young people, not only in Rwanda, but also Rwandan young people in other places like in Canada or wherever else you're viewing. And we also wanted to provide you with some strategies. But before we get started, we thought we would just take you through just a quick little breathing exercise. This is actually something that I've talked about before. I've had the great privilege of sharing with Beyond the Veil before. And so I thought this is just a perfect exercise to take us through. So if you don't mind, I'll just take a couple of minutes to lead us through it. So just sit comfortably in your chair if you're sitting. It's a very, very simple exercise. So I'm going to ask you just to put your hands on one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. I don't think you can see it, but I've got my right hand on my belly. And simply all you're going to do is just breathe. And what I'd like you to try to do is to try to have your hand on the belly be the one that's moving instead of the one that's on your chest, right? This is something called diaphragmatic breathing, and it's actually the kind of breathing that encourages us to be relaxed, encourages us to be grounded, encourages us to kind of let go of some of the anxiety that we might have. So as you can see at the bottom, I've said you can try to breathe in like for maybe 5 seconds, and then exhale for 7 seconds. You can try that just for a bit, right?
Brent,
So
your camera, you know, is not stable. I'm not too sure what's going on.
My camera's not stable?
Yeah.
Is it moving, you mean?
No, more like freezing, like it's,
Oh.
we see like the picture, but.
Okay. Well, so hopefully it'll work. You know what? But what's more important is my voice, I think. So I've got my hand on my chest and my hand on my stomach. Thanks for letting me know, though. And so breathe in for 5 seconds. Again, trying to make the hand move on your stomach, and exhale for 7 seconds. And maybe I'll just count it down for us. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can try again. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll do one more time. Last time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is just a really simple exercise. This helps us to kind of relax and get grounded. You know, when our Zoom is acting up and when our cameras aren't working properly, we can still be relaxed and grounded and not be too concerned about these things. But this is something that you can use, and it's a tool that I teach my clients who have experienced trauma, who've experienced anxiety. So this is something that's a very, very helpful tool for people. Okay, so just really briefly, just a little bit of background information. You already know. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on me because Doriane and Christian, honestly and truly, in my opinion, are the main deal here. But young people make up, did you know that young people make up the largest population of Rwandan people? Maybe you already know that. But I think it's sort of a conception that we, like a lot of people associate Rwanda with like the people who went through the genocide, that generation. But there's a whole 1 or 2 generations now even that have come, and you're the majority. The young people are the majority now. You are the ones who are dominating the culture, and you're the ones who are the leaders of Rwanda, I think. Not only that, but Rwanda has actually been considered to be the best country in terms of dealing with COVID, even though there's been all the difficulties that Doriane and Christian talked about. It's actually been one of the top countries, one of the top nations in dealing with COVID. And so there's a few little pieces I just wanted to remind you of. I wanted to remind you that you are not your parents and your grandparents, right? What a kind of a strange thing to say, because I know that, you know, probably a lot of you like to identify with your parents and grandparents maybe, right? Like, but what I mean is that you haven't personally lived through genocide, likely. Now, I know the definition of youth can be different ages, and so maybe some of you were like babies or really little and you still consider yourself a youth. But for the most part, all of these young people who are now around, you don't remember it, or you weren't really there, or you weren't really part of it. So you might have different needs and different perspectives compared to some of the older people. So I just kind of wanted to just say that and acknowledge that. And that can be an incredible strength that you can offer to those older generations. Your optimism, your hope, your faith, and your belief of a different way of living compared to what happened in 1994. So that's huge. Also, already it's been talked about. I mean, these two have been so wise already. So the social media, right? Like that's that whole piece that like my generation, we never had when we were your age at all. And not only that, but you're also probably navigating traditional and non-traditional influences, a lot of it because of social media, just like Christian was saying, right? There's all kinds of pieces that are out there that now there's a lot of pressure being put on young people, maybe to be a certain way or to portray themselves a certain way that the elders never really had to deal with. And so, so that can be a real struggle for some of you. And not only that, but you've seen some mistakes. You've heard about some things, right, from the older generations, and you don't want to make those same mistakes, and you're not going to make those same mistakes. And so therefore you have a different perspective. But, and I know there's lots of words on here, I'm not going to necessarily read them out or anything, but Rwandan youth, even though you're different from the elders, you can't just ignore the past. And you know this. I mean, it's already been brought up by the young people. I didn't even have to bring it up. Obviously, with what happened with the genocide, there's all kinds of pieces that actually still affect you. There's even something called intergenerational trauma, which is trauma being passed down from generation to generation. And that could be something that some of the young people in Rwanda are facing right now. Even though you didn't go through it, you can still feel a lot of the same effects that your parents or grandparents went through, or your aunts and uncles, or just the older people around you. So this is usually passed down through psychological processes. And one of the biggest ones that has been talked about, and this is where I get a little bit like researchy, but one of the things that the research talks about is silence perpetuates this. Silence passes down the trauma. So when the older generation's been through something and they don't want to talk about it, and it's understandable that they don't want to talk about it, so I'm not blaming them, but if they don't want to talk about it, it still passes on the trauma. And so one way to break that is to start talking about issues, right? And that's what we're doing here. And this is what Beyond the Veil is all about. And Beyond the Veil is breaking that barrier of silence about mental health and even issues about trauma. And today talking about even COVID. So I think it's amazing that we're here and that these young people are empowered to speak out about this. And so a question I wanted to ask Christian and Doriane, if you're willing, I know that this can be a really testy topic, and we're going to move on from genocide after this little part and talk about COVID more. But just wanted to say, does this resonate with you? Does this make sense? Like, is this something that you see, young people being impacted by the genocide, even though they maybe don't remember it or weren't even there? I think, Christian, you kind of talked about that a little bit, right?
Yes. Thank you. I think that was one of the reasons why we started our past initiative, because we realized that some of the kids, they don't have any idea of what happened back in 1994. And their parents, they don't want to talk about that because they are still going through that trauma, you know? So we realized that we needed something that's educating young people about the history, what happened, what caused the genocide, and encourage parents to talk about what really happened. Because we had some cases where you will go to someone's house and you find out that commemoration week, that's when they start buying DSTV, Star Times. These are some of the companies that sells online shows and or channels and stuff. So that's when we realized that those parents, it's not because they don't want their kids to know, but themselves, they are still struggling to, to come out and be able to talk about what happened. And again, we realize that if the parents are not talking about it, we can talk about it as much as we can. Then we can use those who survived the genocide to tell us more about what they went through, how was it, like that. We know if you're going to fight something like that again, we will know the signs of how things started, are we going to be able to fight against the regime or the leadership that can think about doing something like that again? That's how we came up with the idea of, let's first educate young people with the knowledge we have, use the resources we can get, invite old people to talk about what really happened. And maybe those young people might be the ones to go and talk to their parents. And like that, they'll be able to come out and start sharing what they went through. Me, I've always told people, like, it's been 27 years. The very first time I talked about what happened in the genocide with my dad was 3-4 years ago. Because all this time, he never wanted to talk about it. That's when I was even able to go for the commemoration where he comes from, like in the South Province. So all I'm saying is, there is this I will call it an issue, a small issue between the two generations of not knowing who is helping who. We are all waiting for the older generation to come and tell us more, and the older generation is not willing to easily do that. So we need to find a way to start connecting and be able to to break the barrier that is in between those two generations.
Yeah.
Maybe adding a little bit on what Christian just said, I think he kind of summarized most of the things. Another thing would be, as you said, the intergenerational trauma. And sometimes the generation of people who were young or even who were born after the genocide, they have that intergenerational trauma. But because you did not live through it, you do not even know how to address it. You're like, you can't even explain it to yourself before even explaining it to someone else. And growing up in an environment where there are people who have wounds, who have that trauma that they actually truly went through the genocide, you tend to minimize your own trauma. You are like, mine, it doesn't really matter that much because I wasn't there. And also there's that gap, as Christian said, the older generation, they haven't dealt with their own trauma well, or they're still struggling, they're still going through it, and therefore there is not enough information. And I believe that through having conversations and asking questions and understanding really what happened, I think it kind of brings clarity in what happened and how to deal with the situation. But because they were not doing well mentally as well, so no one can blame them. But it was kind of a confusion, but a confusion that kind of took a toll on both generations.
Right. That's such important points there, both of you shared. And yeah, I think that point too, Doriane, that you just mentioned about how people would minimize their trauma because, like, older people actually went through it. I didn't go through it, so therefore, why am I suffering? That's a huge piece, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because maybe there's people watching this who really feel like that. So I think having these conversations are really important. I really thank you so much for sharing about that. And it is something that I'm aware of. And again, I think that there's a specific piece about this for youth that's looks different than the older generation, but it's still so relevant. And so, Christian, I'm so glad that you have initiatives that are addressing this very thing. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on. In keeping with our youth experts here, because obviously they're sharing incredible wisdom, let's now come back to our topic a little bit more, our specific topic. So in terms of the pandemic, I know you talked about this already, but I'm just going to ask you again, if that's all right, because maybe there's some other pieces you've thought of or you just want to reiterate. And then we're going to give a chance for everybody else to answer this in a second too. But what are some struggles you've had due to the pandemic? And maybe we'll ask Doriane, can we ask you to go first again, ladies first?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I like to be in control. I like to know what is happening, what's coming next, what am I gonna do next week, next month. But with the pandemic, I couldn't. And that was really, really frustrating for me. I'm in school, and the fact that I woke up one morning that you're not going to school, you have to adapt yourself to online learning. Like it was a lot, and I'm away from my family, so not knowing if they're okay, if I can just wake up in the morning and just be like, okay, I'm taking a flight, I'm going to see them, because some of them are in the elderly age, and I had to protect them and protect myself. So that was really challenging. And also, as Christian said about social media, yes, it was helpful at some point to connect with people, but it was also, it kind of brought a lot of conspiracy theories that were really, really frustrating. And everything that we were seeing online, 90% of the things were negative. And that being isolated plus always seeing negative information online, that added on, and it piled up. So it created this certain fear, fear of the uncertainty, fear of what's coming next. What if I hear that someone I love or someone I know, is no longer here, and I cannot even be able to go and give my goodbyes? Like, all those things were running through my head. And also seeing some of my friends struggling, as Christian said, some people lost their jobs. Some people lost their loved ones. So all that, the sum of all that was a total and big frustration for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that personal stuff. And so on the screen, there's also some other answers to these questions from our panelists and also other Rwandan youth, actually. But Christian, was there anything else you wanted to add to what you've shared earlier?
Yeah, I think this was the time, for the very first time, I think, in our history, it was the very first time we heard a word lockdown. I remember the very first day they said, from today, 11:59 p.m., everything will be closed for the next 2 weeks. I saw how people were panicking, going at the supermarkets to buy stuff, thinking that maybe the stuff will last those 2 weeks and stuff. So that created fear, not only in young people, but even old people. They were panicking and, scared of what might be next. And so as young people, as I said, for me, myself, I was scared of waking up one morning and they tell me that someone is gone, and because now the funeral, they're allowing only 15 people to go at the funeral, so that I might not be able to, to say bye to someone that I love. And the fact that I woke up and they told me that my bosses are gone, they went back in their countries and the contracts are not there anymore. You look at how much money we're going to make and you be like, oh, I'm done, it doesn't give any any hope. You know, you look at your job, it's gone. You look at the project you're working on, none of them that is going to happen. Because I remember when the lockdown came in, we were working on our 9th edition of our past event. And let me see, it was after we spent like, let's say, 600,000 Rwandan francs. And you look at how much money you've spent and how nothing's going to happen. And you'd be like, oh, this was, you know, a waste of time and energy and money. And you start thinking of, you know, so many things. And that's a trauma already, you know. So we went through a lot, but the fact that looking at young people and seeing how they are like the ones playing a big role in, you know, putting things together again and trying to, you know, to help the government in finding solutions, helping them to, you know, with the COVID restrictions and, you know, all these things. To one side, young people are struggling, to another one, it's a good thing that they're the ones coming up with some of the ideas that are being used by the government. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yes, very true. Thank you, Christian. And I was reading actually that Rwandan young people are the ones volunteering to help out with various aspects, like in Rwanda, to help the government to COVID, which I thought was amazing. I don't think we're seeing that in Canada. Maybe it's not the opportunity, but in Rwanda, it's happening. It's beautiful. So now what we thought we would do is, there's many of you, of course, watching. We thought maybe we could have some of your input in terms of answering this question. So I'm going to ask Lydia if she can put up something called a jam board. Maybe she can explain it for those of you who don't know what it is. Maybe I'm the only one who doesn't know what it is, being the old guy. But if you don't mind, Lydia, you can put that up, and then everybody else can have their say anonymously and answers this question. And then afterwards, we'll talk about some solutions to some of these struggles that we've had during COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, let me drop the link, guys. You know, this is very easy. Let me take this down. Yeah, this is Jamboard, okay? So there's a question here, and you know, you're gonna use this sticky note. So if you can see here, this one is like a sticky note, and you can type in your answer, and it's gonna be anonymous. Nobody can know who's answering. Nobody can see who's typing. And then, for example, let me give you an example. A second. Let me share the link with all of you guys first under the chat, or if Sibo or Brent can share it. Everybody, you can follow this link to be under the Jamboard chat. And we're gonna try to answer this question. Let me share my screen again. So the first question is, you know, the same question that Doriane and Christian were trying to answer. What are some of the struggles you have had due to the pandemic? How it's been affecting you? You can, you know, share. You click first on this arrow to allow you to respond. And then you can select a sticky note and then, you know, type your question. And once you're done, click save, and then it's gonna be there.
All right, so if some of you can try to maybe log on, and if you have an answer to this that you want to just share for us, that would be great. And we'll see what different answers come up.
Oh, thank you for people who are responding right now. As you can see, we can see all the answers here. You know, this idea is, you know, to see how we can relate to one another and really find ways that we can support each other. Because I'm pretty sure some of us, you know, are in leading positions, doing so many amazing things to support our young people. So when we see these type of answers where people are struggling, it can help us to know ways we can create solutions and ways we can come together to even support each other in ways that we're struggling. Let me try to.
Yeah, never would I ever think I would miss being in the office. I miss my work environment, my colleagues, and lunch dates. So true, right? It's the little things sometimes we miss the most. Yeah, and not being able to attend church or not being able to party. There
Yeah,
any
we're
other
gonna
answer?
give you. Yeah, we're gonna give you 2 to 3 minutes, and then you guys can drop in your answers. Everyone is free, and if you really don't feel like answering any of these questions, don't worry about it.
Of course, of course. Yeah, this is all. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not compulsory. Voluntary. Hugs from your therapist. Beautiful. Not being able to travel, that one too for me. Oh, let me tell you, I had some trips planned and I don't know when they're going to happen now. Pursuing graduate studies online, definitely a very, very, I couldn't imagine. I teach as well, like I said, so I'm teaching everything online right now, and it's not the same as being in person, for sure. Well, yeah, such powerful answers. And I can see themes of like feeling isolated, right? And not having access to things like going to church, right? Such an important piece that a lot of people are missing. Having a big dream wedding that I planned, yeah, like having some of our biggest dreams, maybe some of the things that we most were looking forward to for years
Okay.
and years, goals that we've been working
Someone
on.
who is using the pen, you can, when you use the pen, you're gonna have to write over other people. I'm gonna try to erase that, but that's okay. If you
That's
can write
fine.
down,
You know
yes.
what? That's what COVID feels like, right? COVID just scratched out everything that we put on our calendars, and it's yeah. No, that's an expression too, maybe. Missing senior year activities, of course. Yes, yeah, yeah. I really feel for the students who are supposed to be graduating, whether university or high school, because they've missed out on those beautiful ceremonies.
Okay, I think we can move on. Some people, are not able to go to parties. I can feel you 100%. My
Convocation.
convocation ceremony, your wedding, that's really, too much, because there's so much we do to prepare for a wedding. Never would I ever think I'll miss being in the office. I miss my work environment, my colleagues, and lunch date. I really feel you. Most of us can relate. Missed a good paying contract at work. Yes. Social interactions pursuing graduate studies online is a struggle. I'm not gonna read everything. I think most of you can, get to read. Brent, let me know if you want me to stop sharing and you can keep going.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you, everybody, for sharing those answers. Such important things. I dealt with anxiety because staying home and not going out, so I would spend my time overthinking about life. Of course. Yes. Yeah. And Kevin, thank you for that input. We'll reshare the link. I do want to ask another question later on. So we'll reshare that link for you again, just so that you can click on that and have your say. Thank you for letting us know about that. Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen again. So just bear with me here for just a second. Okay, so there's all kinds of other pieces that I think we wanted to kind of quickly talk about. I know our time is kind of ticking away here, but the last thing I think that hasn't come up yet in terms of COVID that we can bring up is this idea of racism. Now, during COVID, there seems to have been a lot of different things that have come up about racism, right? Especially anti-Black racism, specifically, right? And of course, young Rwandan people are dealing with racism every day, at least in North America. And I know in Rwanda it might look different, but it can still be impactful. And so experiencing racism, we know, can lead to things like self-loathing and more anxiety and giving into the expectation that racists have about young Black people. In North America, there's all kinds of awful things that people say, like awful expectations about young Black people that are out there that are untrue, of course. But a lot of young people, young Black people, feel like they need to kind of it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They end up kind of enacting some of those things. So, I know that we've kind of paused, and we're going to, after this part, we're going to start talking about things we can do and solutions and the more positive things. But I think we have Christian and Doriane here again. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your names correctly. And I think that, if you're willing to answer, how has this theme maybe impacted you, or how do you see this theme impacting your youth peers your Rwandan youth, like co-youth fellowship people. I don't know, I didn't really say that very well. But how do you see racism impacting? If you're able to answer that. If it's something it's too sensitive or you don't want to answer, that's fine, and we can move on. But are there any
No,
pieces
absolutely. As you said, living in North America, eventually, at one point, you experience that. Maybe it might be different depending on where you live, but when you look closely, you feel it, you can see it. And I think racism kind of touches on people's self-esteem a lot. It's kind of diminishing who you are, making you doubt yourself, even though you know you shouldn't, even though you know your worth, you know that the other person who's treating you the way they're treating you is wrong, but emotionally, it cannot stop you from being in that place. And we tend to, because when we come here and you're older, you feel like, no, this is not gonna affect me that much. I did not grow up here. I know better. You've had that community you grew up in. You feel like you have enough, how can I say it, package to deal with that. But I don't think that anyone has enough package to deal with racism. At school, you deal with it. At work, you deal with it. And I think that we also, even in our communities, we don't really talk about it that much. And I think we should really be able to talk about it. We should be able to express how we feel. Because in that way, we are able to help each other, support each other. When you see someone going in a darker place because of that, you can remind them. You can remind them that, hey, this person is the one who's in the wrong. You are fine. You're okay. You shouldn't doubt yourself. You shouldn't, A, B, C, D. But we don't get to talk about it much, and it's very important that we talk about it, because when you're in a safe place and people start to actually open up, and again, it comes back to the stigma around mental health, feeling like if I share this, I am weak. I'll look weak to my peers. And for me, I think that being able to share something you're struggling with is actually a sign of strength. And, it's a sign of, it's mature, it's mature, it's strength. And we should encourage people to do that. We should really encourage each other to do that, to be vulnerable when you need to. Yes, you cannot be vulnerable to everyone, obviously, because it's not an easy thing to do. But again, it's important to find that safe space for you, your safe circle where you can be yourself and share struggles.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, and Christian, I don't know, are you able to, is there anything you want to add to this piece?
Don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's not as much as in where you guys are right now.
Yeah.
And we have seen where, you get served after someone from, Europe or America get served, But I think it's not as much as, it is in the Western. But again, it depends on how you respond on that, because if people are not serving you because they have some, other people from Europe or America or Canada, just go to another restaurant, because we have hundreds and hundreds of places you can go to, Maybe that was the one you thought was the best for you, but they're not giving you the service you're looking for. A better way to respond to that, don't give them your money, go spend your money somewhere else. Yeah. That's how I think we should do it, because we've seen that here a couple of times, but I think some of the smart moves people made was going to spend their money somewhere else. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those are great points. Thank you. And I've been to Rwanda, and I had the sense that that the kind of racism we're talking about in North America is experienced differently in Rwanda, and so thank you for those two different perspectives, both totally valid and both so important. So I just wanted to say too that, like, look at these examples of young people here, strong Rwandan youth, male and female, doing amazing things, and really going against the stereotypes that are out there about Black youth or about Rwandan youth even, or you know, people who have African background or who live in Africa. So you can see these amazing examples we have, and I know that there's so many more. When I went to Rwanda, I actually went to a youth group, and there was people talking, like all these teenagers, like young 14, 13, 15-year-olds sitting around a circle talking about all kinds of really important, serious things, and just the loveliest, amazing people, like our future leaders in this community. So I just wanted to just kind of reiterate that even though that there's that racism there that says that you know, young Black people are a certain way, you know, you have examples here, right here, even today, that are totally different than that you can remember and aspire to kind of be like, right? So that's awesome what you've shared. Thank you. Okay, so now let's move on. Let's talk about, see, I had all kinds of amazing things. This is what I was talking about earlier, the Rwandan people, the young people actually helping, volunteering during COVID again, Rwanda's youth, you're the strength of the country, right? It's pretty amazing. So with everything going on with the pandemic now, what can we do about this, right? We talked about all kinds of different struggles, and you know what? We've actually already heard some of the solutions. Christian and Doriane are ahead of me. They're ahead of the game. They're already thinking ahead, and they've already offered some solutions and ideas. But let's see what else we can find. And so once again, I'm going to go to our youth speakers, who again, I think are the ones who have the wisdom, the knowledge here. I'm just, everything that I would say would just be agreeing totally what they say, but they say it better than I would probably. So how have you dealt with the struggles you've had during the pandemic? We know that Doriane's talked about prayer and trusting in God, and you know, Christian's talked about trying to pivot his businesses and stuff, but what are some other things that you would say in terms of how you've dealt with these struggles? What are some things that have been helpful for you?
Personally, number one thing I learned to be grateful for the small things, you know, because I think before COVID, most of us were focusing on the big picture. I want to do this, I want to achieve this, I want, you know, and we kind of don't give enough time or attention to the small things, to the small details. But with the fact that I couldn't control what was coming, I learned to take everything one day at a time and to be grateful for the small things, being able to wake up and not hear any bad news from someone close to me, someone I love, be grateful for that, being able to go for a walk because the winter was around the corner and I couldn't go anywhere anymore. I had to be in the house, which added on to the frustration and the isolation. And another thing is that, which I encourage many people to do or to kind of think about, because sometimes when you see someone you love or someone you care about struggling, and you ask yourself, how can I fix it for them? How, you know, you feel like if I am there for them and I cannot fix it for them, then what am I doing? But this whole situation made me understand that sometimes it's not about fixing it for them. It's rather actually going through it with them. You know, that makes a huge difference. You know, just letting someone know that, hey, I'm here for you. We're in this together. You're not alone. Even though I cannot do anything to change your situation, even though I cannot come see you, but I'm just one phone call away. You can just reach out to me. We can sit and talk. We can just sit and breathe over the phone if that's what helps you. We can go on a Zoom call and cook, you know, learning to adjust ourselves to the new normal and going through situations together as a community. That's another thing that I learned from it. And also trying to manage or be very careful with what I see and hear, protecting my mind and my soul, because sometimes we watch things, we read things and we think that we're just watching, we're just reading, it's not going to impact me. But the more frequently you do that, the more you actually start to believe it, the more you start to think in that angle and see life in those lenses. So yeah, so that's to what I said earlier. I think those are the other things that I could add on. And yeah, in trying to always find a positive something positive in any situation, because I believe that most of the times we see what we're looking for. If you're looking for something positive, eventually you're going to find it, even though it might be 20% or 10%, but it is there and it's going to take you through the day.
Yeah, so true. I think a lot of people need to hear that, right? That, yeah, you find what you're looking for. The way you see things is what you'll end up finding. That's an awesome reminder. And Christian, is there anything else you wanted to add about what you found helpful to you during the pandemic that you'd want to share with all the folks here watching today?
I think it gave me like time to think about my loved ones, and it was a good time to learn new skills, to think outside the box, and to be grateful for what we have, you know. And because after the first lockdown we had, I and my friends thought about how we were struggling and how some of the people we have been working with in the past was struggling, because we knew how, you know, they live and how they might be struggling more than we do. So we started a small and low-key, if I can say, initiative of reaching out to some of them, trying to share with them what we had, like buying them food that can last at least a month. And that was a good time to look at what we have and what other people are going through, because they don't have what we have. And sometimes, you know, we complain about not having enough. So it gave me enough time to think and be grateful of what I have, you know. And yeah, and thinking that we might get out of this situation one day, and I have to come out with new strategies and new ways of doing things. Yeah, it was a good thing, and you know, we just have to stay positive and think outside the box. That's the key about this pandemic. Otherwise, we are going to, you know, to fail ourselves just because of thinking negatively about the situation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so true, so true. So we thought now would be a good opportunity. Thank you again for sharing, Christian and Doriane. I definitely don't take it for granted one bit. We thought that, you know, for the rest of you, this might be a great opportunity to share. So we'll do the Jamboard again. So since you've had some experience of doing it, so I'll ask Lydia to, if you don't mind setting it up. And she's just shared the link now with everybody. So you can click on the link and she'll put it up on the screen for us and they're going to be answering a similar question, or basically the same question. How have you dealt with the struggles you've had during the pandemic? What are some things that have worked for you? Perspectives, or is it specific skills or different ideas even about self-care? Like, what's helped you during this really, really difficult time that we're all going through? And so you can...
And sometimes if you feel like you have nothing, because sometimes, you know, really feel free to say like nothing really, because not all of us are able to practice self-care or, you know, do other stuff. So, you know, express yourself the way you feel like it.
Exactly. Yeah, this is, again, your space. Lydia said this earlier, right? This is your space to share. And so if whatever's on your mind, if it is, even if it's like, I didn't really do anything different and I've been struggling, you can put that. If someone's put, they started working out, yes. That's good. A lot of people have stopped working out, at least in Canada, right? But some people have started, so that's great. Really, really helpful.
Actually, same here.
Nice.
Okay, so keeping my hope alive and attract positivity. Yeah, beautiful. And I slept a lot. Yeah, interesting, right? That could be...
That's pretty much everyone.
Yeah, true. That could be a good thing. It could be like, oh, you're actually having time to rest and sleep. or it could be like an avoidance or even a depression type thing. It depends on what it looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be a problem, but it could also be actually a good way of dealing with things, truthfully. It depends. So those are some other ideas. Yeah, we'll just wait another minute or two just to see if anybody else wants to share. Learned how to cook. That's great. You know, I probably should take that advice and learn how to make some more dishes too. I'm not the best cook, but that's terrific.
Yeah, the importance of sharing this, is, some of us can relate, or there's a way, sometimes I can look at this, be like, oh my God, I would love to try this. It can be encouraging, it can be, relating to somebody else, and can even be, having compassion so we can encourage each other.
Definitely.
I became a teacher to my siblings. I really feel you. I became a teacher to my siblings as well.
Nice.
Sometimes I had to pay my older son so he can help the younger ones.
Someone in the chat has mentioned that there might be some hope with the arrival of vaccines too, or there might be new anxieties associated with that. And that's so true, Steve. I think that I kind of go back and forth too, like, oh, are there issues with this? But hey, it also might be a hopeful thing. And as I see more people getting the vaccines and they're okay, and I see the numbers going down, like, so for me, sometimes, yeah, I've gone to the news. I've just tried to keep a positive view. And just try to take the information that's positive and hopeful, and just trust that that's moving in the right direction. Sometimes it might feel like a little bit of a stretch, honestly, right? Some days are worse than others, of course, but sometimes that's good. Like, I can look at it and say, oh, there's people getting vaccinated and they're okay and it's working. Or, oh, there's things opening up here and where I live, like we're not on lockdown anymore. So sometimes that's helpful. But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, again, guys, for some who are not aware, you just have to click on this sticky note so you can be able to type in your questions. So when you click here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you can be able to share your thoughts, But I think we're gonna move, forward. We have another question as well.
Sure. So started doing nature photography and all kinds of, started practicing yoga, watch many movies. Awesome. Thank you, folks, for sharing that.
Okay. Do you want me to stop the sharing?
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you.
Okay, so all this stuff kind of fits into the theme that we've been talking about. So things we can do. There's things we can do to deal with the stress of the pandemic. And as you can see here, there's this idea of self-care. And so these are some of the answers that were provided by some of your youth peers. And they've already spoken. Christian and Doriane actually contributed some of these answers as well. So I'm just going to read them out because I think we kind of asked them already. And I want to make sure there's time at the end for them to share more of their heart and what's on their minds just about any other topics related to this. So finding ways to connect with family and friends, taking breaks from online learning and work, eating healthy, having a community of people that share the same values. So reading, going on walks, those are all things that I've done too, for sure. And I think one of the ways as young people we ignore is to follow the government restrictions, right? So I'm fighting against this virus. So I think that, so if we follow the restrictions, it's supposed to help us come out of this whole situation more quickly, right? And so that's an excellent way. Someone mentioned that they were taking care of themselves, as well as also to keep pushing business and making sure that things are working in terms of that financial aspect of their life. So I have some other ideas here. Some of these might be familiar to you if you've, it's funny because, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about trauma, and when we talk about the pandemic, a lot of the solutions are actually similar, right? And so, so there's things that we can do, like reading a book that was mentioned, exercise was already mentioned, setting and following a schedule if you're under lockdown, that's really, really important. Setting a menu plan. There's some people who've been struggling with their eating. right? And so if there's a way, if you have to kind of plan out your meals, that can be helpful. Listening to music and singing and dancing and playing are all things you can still do at home, even if you're under lockdown. And somebody mentioned that earlier, listening to music and how important that is. Watching something funny, right? That's something that I do. I love to just watch just random funny things online that I know that are going to make me laugh and be encouraging. Taking a walk, well, there we go. That's already been talked about. Calling a friend, or even talking to someone else who understands and listens to you. Maybe you have a journal that you can write in, or also you can volunteer. If you're in Rwanda, it sounds like there's many opportunities maybe to volunteer and address the pandemic and be part of the solution, right? And maybe even here in Canada, there might be some more opportunities coming up with some of that too. So keep your eyes open for that. There might even be things like taking a warm bath, if that's something you like to do. I don't know, some people like to do that kind of thing. Maybe doing something artistic, or if you have a pet, playing with that. And even taking a break from the internet. And Doriane's talked about that too, right? Just limiting that exposure, because there's been lots of really interesting things that have been shared online, whether politically here in North America, or about racism, or about the pandemic. All things that can be really discouraging. So I think that what she said earlier about guarding your heart and guarding your mind, so important. Such an important encouragement, not just for young people, even for someone my age as well, who's maybe not as young. I need to remember that, because I can get bogged down by this stuff that I'm reading too online. It's especially discouraging when when it's like people posting stuff and you're like, really? But anyway, we'll move on. Some other ideas might also be, again, noticing some of the positive things happening around you and in your community. You kind of talked about that already, right? I think both Christian and Doriane have both mentioned that importance of being positive and holding on to positive things. And some of you said that on the Jamboard too. And also focusing on what's in your control, right? Both Christian and Doriane in their own ways have said, yeah, I like to control things. I like to have things set up. I have my business ready to go, or I like to control things in my daily life. And it's easy to think about the things that we've lost control over, but the things we can still control. Right? Again, even if it's just our daily schedule, just even if we're in lockdown at home, or maybe there's new business ideas we can come up with, or maybe we have control over who we can still interact with and encourage, or maybe we even have control over reaching out for help if we need it, right? So, and there's could be all kinds of other examples, but we can focus on what's in our control, and this can also help us to feel not so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. So I think at this point, okay, I'll mention this really quickly since we have these ideas here real quick. Having a routine at home, maybe that's me. Maybe that's the, I come from two cultures. One of them is a very organized culture and the other one isn't organized at all. So maybe that's the organized side of me saying, oh, it's good to have a routine because it helps you to be calm and focused, and you can kind of plan things out and just follow it. And so that you might find that helpful too. Or maybe you like to kind of just go with the flow, and maybe that helps you. So you can also do that too. And I understand both sides, depending on which part of my family we're talking about. And stay connected with important people in your life. This was also mentioned. So many of you have already talked about, the fears you had over your loved ones, either getting COVID or if they're struggling during COVID. So reaching out to each other, Zoom or phone or any other way that you can. So important to be able to do that. Whether it's people from your church, if you go to church, or your family members, or your friends at school, whoever is really important to you. Just because we might be under lockdown, we might not be able to visit people as much as we used to right now, doesn't mean that you can't still interact with them and be a huge presence in their life, and vice versa. You need them and they need you. So even though COVID is a very isolating experience, it doesn't have to be as isolating as it could be. We can take that step to reach out and help each other. And that is a huge thing that we all could be doing. So what I thought I would end my part with, and Beyond the Veil will offer the slides to us. I know that we skipped over some things. It all actually corresponds to what Christian and Doriane have been sharing. So it's really beautiful how that happened, but you didn't need me to tell you the same thing they already told you. So I thought that we would end with this piece, and then they can kind of elaborate from here. So these, Rwandan youth are the leaders. That's kind of been one of the themes I've been trying to share. I really believe that. And Christian and Doriane have totally embodied that today. And so I asked them, what are some messages that you'd want to share with Rwandan youth right now as leaders? And these were the answers that were given. And maybe I'll just give them the floor again to share. And then again, you can also elaborate on whatever else you want to share about. This will be the part that I wrap up my part of it. But yeah, Christian and Doriane, how would you answer this question? I already have your answers on here, but is there anything else you want to elaborate on or share or talk about?
Yeah, also Brent, I have many questions for you in the chat. Yeah, so
okay. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think I said most of it. Maybe it's just to kind of summarize it and put it together. The number one thing is to stay positive and make sure that you're feeding your mind positive things. If it's on social media, make sure you're following people that are actually building you up instead of creating anxiety, frustration, and fear in you by what they post and all that. Trying to stay connected to your loved ones, the people that you care about, because I know that not knowing how someone is doing or if they woke up well, if they're doing well, that also can eat you up inside somehow. And also being able to share when you actually are struggling, be able to seek help, understanding that it is okay not to be okay. It is fine not to have everything figured out. It is okay to be frustrated because that's the time we're in. You just have to have that community of people that you trust, that you can share things with without feeling judged or feeling that you have to hold some things back. And also find that thing that help you go through your day, the things that helps you cope with pressure or the uncertainty that we're in. If it's music, if it's cooking, if it's running, if it's working out, whatever it is, find it and focus on doing that. Yeah, and be in contact with your people, be in contact with your friends, try to adjust to the new normal. Hopefully it's gonna end soon, but nobody knows. So with that, I think it's important that we try to adjust ourselves to the current situation. Try to remain sane. Do whatever you can to remain sane.
Thank you so much. So true. And Christian, is there anything else you would add to your answer or anything else you'd want to share? This is your floor.
So thank you guys so much. First of all, before answering that, there is a post. One of my friends posted this picture, and it says, a year ago, this was our last normal week of life. So, and she put a caption there saying, so much has changed. Oh my God. Friendship has been formed, relationship broken, family learn to live with each other, new beginnings, fear, hopes. So, and she says that this year has shaken us so bad way. So there are two things I want to talk about, and I got them from the research I was doing. There is one, adapting like positively, and that means like staying active, taking time for yourself, learning new skills, and keeping your family and loved one close, And second, there is like, this one was in the research that the UN did. It says that looking to the future, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for mental health to be given the priority it has always been denied. That's one of the keys that we have to understand, giving the mental health the priority that it has always been denied. Because if you look at when did we start to talk about mental health, like, I don't know, it sounds like, it always sounds like something new. And it has always been there, all these years, like mostly Rwandan people, we have known that since the genocide, but the thing is, no one talks about it as like mental health. There's always something going on with someone, facing some issues, family issues, or where they work, and all those things. But we've never said, oh, there is a mental health issue here, So as he said, just give it a priority that it has always been denied. And from there, people will be able to talk about what is going on. And, once in a while, talk to your friends, check on them. Some of them are telling you they're okay because you're asking if they're okay, but you're not asking them deep down what is going on. So try to improve how you check on your close ones. Like that, you'll get to a point where they start telling you what is really going on. Then from there, we can achieve something bigger than what we have seen in the past. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that once again. So at this point, Lydia, I'm not sure, and Christian and Doriane for that matter too, I'm not sure if you had anything else prepared that you wanted to share at this time. You're on mute, Lydia.
Yeah, I think we can move on to responding to people's questions.
Sure. Okay. I was actually typing the answers in, but I can speak them out loud for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there is first question. Prince asked, my name is Calvin. Why do some people choose to just take meds and not therapy? Is that safe?
Yes. Sorry, just a second. You caught me answering another question.
And also for people raising their hands, I'm gonna come to you after these questions so I can give you the opportunity to ask your questions. Thank you.
Okay. So Calvin, yeah, I typed an answer in there, but I think that some people, so you can read it is what I mean, and after I'm done answering this, but I think that you can, I think there's gonna be some people who just don't trust counseling or therapy. They don't really understand what it's about. They say it's not going to help. I talk to people. I work with people. I glossed over it at the beginning because I didn't want to talk about me too much, but I work with people who've experienced trauma, and I work with a lot of newcomers. In fact, that's who I work with, newcomers to Canada. And some of them come from cultures, even though they're talking to me, they're like, this isn't going to help. Like, I've been through war. I've been through, all kinds of terrible things, and talking about it's not going to help. And they're not saying it with attitude. That's just what they kind of believe. And so part of my job is to educate them and to let them know that you know what, there actually is evidence that talking about this stuff in a skilled counseling therapy way, that actually is helpful to people and that it can help with the symptoms. I also think that maybe there might be some stigma, particularly with Rwandan people who talking about things is still kind of new for some people, and it's kind of, obviously the youth are having no issue at all sharing about things, but maybe some of the other people do have an issue with that a little bit. So they think taking a medication might be just a really quick, easy way of dealing with something without realizing the benefit of counseling. So I think what we can do is we can continue to address the stigma of counseling and the stigma of mental health and seek help that way. So that might be one way of looking at it. Hopefully that's helpful. Kind of just bouncing question to question, but yeah, sure. Go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brent. I think you explained it well. Mental health being a new study in our country, and thing. It's always to understand the importance. It's hard to even understand the importance of taking medication or choosing between therapy and medication. Both of them really, usually go well together. But at the end of the day, it always depends on one's needs. Not everybody needs to take medication. Not everybody, but at the end of the day, we have to just be understanding to those people who are coping with, mental illnesses, challenging times, if they're taking those medication, it doesn't mean that they're refusing to attend therapy. What I've even seen in Rwanda, many people are, having access to psychiatric support and less access to therapy support. So which is very, very challenging, but at the same time, both way, we just have to be understanding. It's like seeing somebody with a mental illness and asking them, why are you choosing this and not this? If we have a better idea, we can always, share with them. But at the end of the day, thinking that sometimes there's no other option for them. The same way, if somebody's taking medication to treat, let's see, any physical illness, we don't ask them why this or that. If you have any recommendation, we just try to be sensitive in ways that we share with them. Thank you so much. The other question is, from Steve, do we witness hope with the arrival of vaccines, or even new anxieties are just arising?
Yeah, and so that was another really important question. And this is just my personal opinion, and I know there's different opinions out there about this, but it's looking hopeful. It's looking hopeful to me. So I would say really what we can do is we can watch the trends, watch what's happening really closely, because we all have to make that decision for ourselves and for our families as to what we're going to do about that. I understand that there are anxieties about the vaccines. I have them too, of course. But I'm watching, right? I'm watching what's happening, and I'm actually seeing positive things. I am seeing cases go down. I am seeing people not really manifesting side effects yet. I noted in the answer that I typed out that there's a lot of brilliant people working on these things. It's not just, I don't think it's just, there's different theories out there of what's really happening. And even though I understand the anxieties, I think that there's some things to be hopeful about. But I would say, consult a medical professional like a doctor or a nurse. I have some nurse friends who I've talked to about this, and they've been very, very hopeful about the vaccines and have had them themselves already because they're frontline responders. So I don't know if that helps, Steve, but that's kind of how I would answer, really. Just watch, be careful, take a look, and I guess we'll have to make, when we have to make those decisions for our family, we'll do that. And then there's another question there. Sibo actually offered that that she wrote, we offer therapy sessions to our audience. Send an email anonymously and we'll connect you. So there's an email address there that you can access. It's in the chat. It's in the answer, the question and answer part. Beyond the Veil Mission 2019 @gmail.com. So you can email if you need access to counseling or therapy, just like Lydia was talking about. You can get it through Beyond the Veil, which I think is pretty amazing. Also, I've left my email up there on the screen too that you can see. It's my professional email. It's not a personal email. It's York University. It's one of the places I teach at. And any email that comes in there, I would keep confidential. If you have any questions about anything, or if you, if you even want to be somehow, I could pass the email on to someone at Beyond the Veil if I can't help. Please let me know. It's there for us. There to help.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brent. I'm trying to bring in many people just to join our panel so we can see if you allow us to see you. Consolate, thank you so much for being here. I see many people here. Yeah, one of the things, Beyond the Veil, we're growing. Yeah, Beyond the Veil is growing in many ways, in Rwanda and here in Canada, as you support us, it gives us an opportunity to build, our capacity in ways that we can serve you, while we do still have not enough capacity in terms of, offering therapy sessions and all of that, but we have ways, we have resources, we can, direct you in ways that can help you, even if it's not in our capacity. There's so many resources that we can share with you, because the goal of our social media at the end of the day, therapy is still a privilege. It's not like we're gonna tell everyone, oh, go find therapy, go do this and all of that. And not everybody need really therapy sessions to go through what they're going through. Sometimes our community, friends, families can help us to go through. But on our pages, followers, keep in touch with us. There are always tips. Like this week we shared, some of the important tips that can help our young people Yes, especially if you're living in Canada, these countries, Western countries, always, free resources here and there. Again, we're here. Send us a DM. We're open for you. We can share with you, ways that can really help you. So the other question, Brent, someone who lived through parental marital abuse, childhood trauma, how do they move on as a youth? Because unconsciously, you tend to project it to others. How does one start with the healing process?
And I think maybe I'm biased because I have numerous clients who've had this experience, but there's one in particular I'm thinking of right now who I'm working with. Obviously, I can't say anything about them for confidentiality, but I would say maybe, if you can, access counseling or therapy for that is one way. Or if you don't have access to that, maybe talking to someone trusted, like a wise person or someone who you can really, you really trust their judgment, because I think that there could be a lot of things within that are hard to to figure out on your own. All right. Like you said, because there's unconsciously projection. So it's good to get feedback from someone else who can say, oh, you're projecting this thing. And a lot of times, like counselors, for instance, are trained to look at that. So if you have access to that, maybe through Beyond the Veil or in some other capacity, maybe through a church or through another organization or something, then I would suggest that you do that. But again, maybe that's the easy answer for me, because I do that with people, right? Like I've talked to people about that, and I'm currently working with someone right now on that very issue. Another thing too is just to kind of really, and it's hard to do this. It's good to get feedback from somebody else, but if you could kind of check in with yourself and say, what are the patterns that I'm replicating, right? What are the things that I'm doing that's like an imitation of my parents and the way that they were, right? And being really conscious about how you interact with people to see and to examine, okay, am I interacting with people the same way that I saw them interacting? Because if there's something that they're doing that you don't want to do, then you have to bring it to your consciousness and then change it, right? So it's a very complex question. I think, obviously we would need more time to really talk about it in more depth, but I would say examining yourself and seeing the patterns that you're living out, and also the idea of sorry, I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. Accessing help either through a counselor, professional counselor, or again, someone else trusted who you can trust, like maybe a pastor or a church elder or a teacher at school. Maybe sometimes teachers are able to talk to students, or there might be other people in the community you can ask about that too, which I understand might be hard, given like it's a very personal kind of a thing. So I'm aware of that. So so I guess it really is about finding someone that's safe to talk to that way. Just to let you know, I do have to dart out in a minute or two, but I see there's 2 more questions here. I'm just gonna jump right in and try to answer them really quickly, like 1 minute each. But then I do have to run, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I literally have to run, which is a whole other story. So what do you have to say about the world seeing marijuana as a kill drug when it's actually therapy? That's the anonymous asked this question. That's such a interesting question. Interesting in that, like, it's such a debate, right? Even here in Canada, if you're from Canada, of course, marijuana was legalized, I think 2 years ago, or decriminalized 2 years ago. Prior to that, it was illegal. And then on July 1st, I think it was 2018 or maybe 2019, all of a sudden it was legal. So there's obviously different views about that. I do teach about addictions, interestingly enough, in actually York University, one of the universities I teach at. And so I know I can tell you with confidence that it's one of the drugs that it's not one of the more toxic drugs, right? There's some drugs, like you say, like a kill drug. There's some drugs like heroin or cocaine or crystal meth that are very harsh to the body, that are very, very dangerous to the body. And then there's other drugs like marijuana that isn't as dangerous, right? It wouldn't be decriminalized in Canada if it wasn't as dangerous. Now, at the same time, people have different views on, putting things into their body that's going to change their control over themselves, right? There's some people who have a real hard time. They think that that's wrong. They think that that's like even possibly a sin. And I wouldn't challenge any of that, right? So I think it's a personal choice that you have to make. I would say that I understand people saying that it's not a kill drug. I understand people saying that it's helpful to them. Marijuana is prescribed for pain in very controlled ways, but here in Canada, it's prescribed for pain. People can take marijuana, like they can actually smoke marijuana even, to deal with pain, and a doctor would say, yes, you're allowed to do this. So yes, it can actually be a medicine, but it could also be a drug that can lead to other issues for people. There are some studies for young people, for instance, that shows that it can lead to psychosis. So it can lead to kind of losing control over your mind if you use it really heavily. So you have to be, if you are going to use it, you have to be really careful with it. If you have a doctor kind of overseeing that use, then maybe that's the best way to do it. But I kind of maybe get what you're saying. Like some people say it's a kill thing. It's not necessarily. That's the truth. But again, you have to go with your conscience and your morals about it to really decide what makes sense for you. And not only that, but also for your family too. Mm-hmm. And Iris has another question too. Sorry, I'm just going to jump right in there. I know I love to get into these. But again, my time, unfortunately, is drawing to a close. Are there increased cases of mental health issues, or is it just that there are reported more regardless of COVID-19? Oh, that's a fascinating question, Iris. That's a whole other 5-hour, 10-hour presentation, that question. I've wondered about this myself many times. I honestly do think COVID-19 has brought more stress and anxiety to people. I think that that's real, and I think that there are more cases. But I also think that there is more awareness in Canada, at least, and maybe in Rwanda too, for that matter, about mental health, and so people are coming forward more. So I think that our elders and our ancestors dealt with mental health differently. I think that there was always mental health issues, but they dealt with it differently. They pushed through. My grandmother, she just pushed through stuff, right? Like she went to counseling, but she was in her 90s when she finally went to counseling about something, about a trauma that happened earlier in her life, believe it or not. So she finally, but before then, she just pushed through, So are there increased cases? I think that, I think that there are increased cases due to COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, I think that the pace of life and a lot of the stressors that are in life, I think that they do cause more mental health issues for people, honestly. But it's not that I think people are more sick. Like inherently, I think it's that there's just a lot more pressures in society for people. So that is how I would answer that question. I hope it's a great question. And like I said, we could tease it out and really debate it and have a really big discussion about it. It's a fascinating question. And I've wondered that too. And I've wondered that particularly for populations like people in Rwanda, for instance, maybe had a different way of dealing, or a whole different understanding of mental health, but now we have this westernized stuff that we're kind of like talking about mental health and what that all means. And sometimes I think we lose some of the traditional ways that people dealt with it. And there's some good things about the traditional ways, but there's also good things about the new ways that people are talking about it too. So it's kind of it can go either way there. So again, that's my email address. I'm gonna thank you so much for having me. I'm gonna leave the conversation. I'm not sure what the plan is. I'm sure Lydia will wrap up, and maybe there'll be other sharing or whatever else happening.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for having me. To be one of the few, maybe the only, or one of the few non-Rwandans who gets to be, in this conversation, it means the world to me. I don't take it for granted. It's a huge deal, and it's a huge privilege and an honor. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everybody who participated, and thank you to Christian and Doriane too for your wisdom and for sharing such awesome things. Thank you so much for everything that's been shared today. So I'm sure I'll see you again. In fact, I will see you again in a future presentation. But thank you so much for everybody. And again, if you have any questions, you can email me either through Beyond the Veil or also my email address too. And anything that comes to me, I'll keep confidential.
Absolutely, yes. You can stop sharing. Thank you so much, Brent. We do appreciate, we know we really you have a busy schedule, but I think, more than 40 minutes, it really means a lot to us, to our youth. And thank you so much for taking that time. If you really have any other question you would like to address to Brent, you can send us a DM, or I just, dropped his email address, under the chat. You can email him directly. And, He's gonna have another discussion, I think, 2 weeks from now on how we can, take care of our loved ones. Because one of the struggle, especially the young people, sometimes, they have to live with, helping their siblings or even their parents coping with, mental illnesses or mental challenges, and it can be a huge struggle. So, we're gonna have a conversation around that, ways that even caregivers can learn how to take care of themselves and understand people they are helping as well. So yeah, I think Brent, you are free to go. We're gonna end the conversation with, the notes from Doriane and Christian as well. The people who raise their hands, if you guys have the time, I can allow them to speak. One moment, let me see. Yeah, we had Humure Jean-Paul. Would you like to speak? I see that you've been raising your hand for a long time. Humure Jean-Paul. Warufti Chivazo, you had a question? Or maybe it was by accident. Also, I think I saw Imanzi earlier raising his hand. If you have a question, please, unmute yourself and address your question. Other than that, let me see the chat. I think most people didn't even know that they had mental issues. Like, do you know you're having an anxiety attack if you never heard of it? We're so grateful for Brent. Yeah, you're so right. We're grateful for this knowledge that it's helping us and it's making it easier for us to learn how to cope. Especially that many people from us had to cope for a long time without knowing what it was. Even our family members, my family had to try to fix our elder sister for a long time without knowing that she was struggling with mental illness. Sometimes I sit down and I'm like, oh my goodness, it must have been painful. It's like trying to convince people that you have cancer or any other illness, without them understanding you or you're going through. But at the end of the day, we're learning. And one of the things that I want to acknowledge as well for our youth is that, especially from Rwanda, the young people with no jobs, coping with isolation, living by themselves. It's been a long time. It's so hard, at the end of the day, if you're here, coping with any of those issues, there are people who are here. Kerry, Toronto, this is one of the organizations doing so many great things for the youth, and they're supporting us to organize this event. We have Christian, our past initiative, Doriane as well, with United for Humanity, another organization for the young people. You can always reach out to us. There are always ways, don't suffer in silence. I always tell people we have lost many people due to silence. So silence is not really helping us. It doesn't matter. If they're gonna laugh because you had to speak up, it's up to them. But at the end of the day, people can't help if you don't get to ask. So people need to know that we need help no matter what. And, especially for the Rwandan people, our trust has been, broken from many things, war, being separated from parents, loved ones, living in refugee camps, all those things, it's so hard for us to trust one another or trust even tomorrow. Now we have the pandemic having us questioning all of that. So yeah, Christian, Doriane, please, as we're closing, have your say to the Rwandan youth, and then I'll move to Christian, and then we'll move on from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Lydia, are we taking questions? Because there is Humere Jean-Paul who wanted to say something and he just
okay, yeah, I was waiting. Humere Jean-Paul, please, would you like to ask your question or share your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I don't know if you see me.
Yeah, we can't see the video, but we can see your beautiful picture.
Okay. I'm very sorry. It's the first time to use this app, so I think you can understand me.
Yes.
I see what is doing. So my words is to thank you for this occasion it gives me. As I said, it's the first time to use this application. I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you for your opinions and your experience you passed through this pandemic. Doesn't have any question. I just want to thank you, as I said.
Thank you so much, Jean-Paul. Thank you. The fact that you're trying for the first time using Zoom to join us, it means a lot. And we appreciate a lot, your presence here. It means a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah. Doriane, please.
Thank you, Lydia. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thanks to Beyond the Veil for organizing this. Maybe the last thing I would say is just to encourage everyone to not to ignore any signs or any message that your emotions are trying to give you. Let us acknowledge that. I know that most of us grew up in an environment where we were raised in a place to just where they teach us to ignore that, to try and push through and move on. But it is important that we actually be able to take care of our mental health the same way we take care of our physical health. Therefore, we'll be able to create a safe environment for each other. But because right now we kind of a community that has a lot of people who are wounded, and we're all trying to live our best life on social media and out there, but deep down we know that we are not really that well. We're not doing that well. We're still bleeding. We're still wounded. So it is time that we are fortunate that we have been exposed to different cultures through social media or traveling and all that. So we should take all that in and be able to take advantage of all the information and experiences that we get from different people, and try to create a safe community and a safe environment for everyone.
Thank you so much, Doriane. It really means a lot. This is a time where no one is going to suffer in silence. And thank you so much for using, your privileges, I would say, your power actually to really help us to bring many people to this conversation. And as we share it even on YouTube, everywhere, I'm pretty sure it's going to help many people. Thank you for using your platform. Thank you for helping us in a way to really get this message out there. Thank you so much. Christian, you next. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. First of all, I would like to say that young people can bring a big something on the table when it comes to how the world can deal with mental health, because when you look at how young people are reacting to this pandemic, they're doing a lot to stay positive, to change things, and they can play a big role in how we are dealing with the mental health issue, And again, as Doriane said, I wanted to tell you that as young people, as I know I'm talking about Rwandan young people, don't let social media fool you. Don't just think that what you see on social media, that's what people are going through in like real life. Because one thing is, people show you what they want you to see. People don't show you how they sleep at night. A few hours ago, I posted a salad. Maybe that's the only thing I could, that's the only thing I was able to, to buy or to make, because that's the only thing I had. And because you saw the salad, you might say, oh, before that salad, maybe he had chicken or something like that. But I showed you what I wanted you to see, you see? And for me, maybe I wanted just to let you know that I had a salad. But for you, you might thought that maybe, oh, I wanted to tell you that after eating this, you have to have a salad. Or every Saturday in the evening, you have to have a salad. So don't let social media fool you. That's what social media does. Just for me, like, there's even someone I was talking to. I was like, what do you think about the social media and the mental health, you know, how it affects people, mostly young people. And she was like, you know, for me, I see it as a source of entertainment.
Mm.
You know, when I go out there, I know that I'm going to look for memes, for fashion, for what the artists like said in their tweets, what they posted on IG. So she said, I don't give time to what might destroy my peace of mind. So I think that's a good advice to all the young people out there. Don't let anything from the social media, just make it. And not everything that is going to teach you one or two things. You just have to be wise about it, you know. Choose wisely what you follow, what you know, you like, what you wish you have, if it was possible. Choose wisely. And another thing, like, lastly, check on your close ones, and, you know, help one or two people if you can. That's like the last thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian. We really appreciate everyone joining us today. You know, your neighbor, your fellow youth that you see there doing nothing, they're not lazy. You know, let's just have compassion. You know, let's help one another. The other thing I would add on top of social media, let's not just do this. Let's not just try to self-diagnose ourselves. Sometimes you see these posts or anxiety, sign of anxiety, depression, and all of that. And you start checking, oh, do I have this, all of that. And then, you know, oh, because you're going through a tough moment, it doesn't mean you have, you know, you can just, you know, diagnose yourself with depression or other mental illnesses. It is really important to always, you know, if you think like there's something that is affecting you, especially for a long time, and, you know, if you can, you know, try to reach out, either, you know, seeking medical support, professional support in any ways. That word, I'm always, you know, I don't like using it, because when I say seek support, I know from my people in Rwanda, it can be challenging. I can tell you, wake up and go to the counseling or clinic office, you know, to find that support. It's still a struggle. But at the end of the day, you know, we have people, there are people who send us message, you know, these are the things that my loved one is going through. What do you think? What can I do? Or even, you know, if you know somebody who knows somebody, you know, try it that way, but let's not try to diagnose ourselves. You know, sometimes I see a lot of people, you know, I'm depressed. You know, you have to understand depression is really one of the type of mental illnesses, and it is important that until you get that, you know, that diagnostic confirmed from, you know, a medical professional, it's not always important to start using those words, you know. The other thing we can also, you know how you feel. If you feel like, you know, you're struggling with depression, yeah, that's how you feel. We can control that. The idea was that, you know, don't let things that you see out there determine how you feel on or what you're going through. So always, you know, listen to your heart, you know, have your own judgment, but at the end of the day, also adapt to friends, what friends are talking about, neighbors, you know, people who know you really well. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to close. This is, thank you guys for this wonderful conversation. Yeah, I think all these are feedbacks we appreciate a lot. Again, you live in the GTA, Toronto areas, Hamilton, please send us a DM or an email. We'd love to bless you or send you a gift. And our people across the globe, we hope working so hard in the future, we're gonna be able to really, you know, spoil you and share with you some love and all of that. So Sibo, quickly, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Because you've talked a lot about social media. By the way, I'm the project coordinator at Beyond the Veil, to introduce myself. But I want to remind you something. Social media can fool us, that is so true. But when we're following people who are giving us information that we need, that can help us more. I just put in the chat our social media, Instagram, Twitter, we are all in everything except TikTok. We're getting there. But the thing is, we're giving us information, tips every day that changed your mindset in the morning. I know some people said it's the first time they're accessing Zoom. So if you don't have social media, please send us an email so we can send you the information about the events events that we're doing. We want to know what you're thinking. Give us feedback. What do you like to do? What would you like to see more in these events? How can we adapt it to yourself so you can enjoy these events? So please give us your feedback, give us your thoughts. We want to hear from you because we are doing this for you. And I want to thank everyone who's working behind this. This woman, Lydia, is amazing. Judith, thank you. Kagame, Brent, and everyone who's actually helping. They're doing an amazing job, and you're going to hear from them if you talk to them. So please go ahead. That's all I want to say, and thank you so much.
Thank you. And we have even our counselor in Rwanda who can chat with you virtually. So, reach out to us. There's always a way, to offer 30 minutes, an hour to just chat. So thank you so much. Keep in touch with us. We appreciate it a lot. This Sunday, next Sunday, we have an event for our elders. You have your mom, your aunt, your grandparents, invite them to that event. There's a lot that they can learn because, as Christian said, bridging the gap between the young people and older generation, it's important that we have these discussions. And, I think you guys said a lot. This was amazing. And thank you so much for closing. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Yes.
I'll be in touch with you guys soon. Thank you.